Are your trading profits suffering from a built-in inconsistency? Yeah, built-in inconsistency. That's what I'm talking about. What we're going to look at today are the three main areas of inconsistency regarding your ability to profit in your trading. One of them, most everybody's familiar with. The second one, everybody's maybe familiar with, but not really thinking about a whole lot. The third one, very few people are even aware of. And yeah, that's this built-in inconsistency that I'm going to share with you today. So yeah, what's with this built-in inconsistency? Well, see, my background is I'm a quality engineer, and quality is all about consistency. That's like at the foundation of quality assurance, is being able to, do something, do it well, and do it consistently. That's how you achieve quality assurance, is you got a handle on your process where, yeah, you know that you're getting good output. So that gives me kind of a different perspective on trading that's really helpful. So what are the three areas that we're talking about, the three general areas that create inconsistency in your profits? Well, and we're not talking about the uncertainty of the markets. That's a whole separate issue. That's independent of this. This is just really, things that are really within your control. So the first main area, and this is the one where everybody's really familiar with it, is where you're just plain deviating from your strategy. You're just plain not following it. Maybe you're chasing trades, maybe you're hesitating, maybe you're doing some things sometimes, and other times you're not doing those things. But it's in your execution, really, and so that's the first general area, and that's what everybody talks about. All the trading psychology is all about, and it's significant. Don't get me wrong; I'm not dismissing it, but again, everybody's pretty familiar with that one. And now, one thing that's good to clarify here, though, is it's not purely psychological. A lot of people think it is. It's just a matter of discipline, and it's purely psychological matter. Maybe it's your beliefs, your relationship with money, some deep mommy daddy issues, whatever. But they think it's just psychological, and it's not. There are practical aspects of it as well that you're about to find out about here in just a minute, that really do affect this aspect of it. This area, this whole not being able to stick to your system thing or stick to your strategy. The second area that inconsistency comes from, and it doesn't get talked about much, but it happens a lot, is just plain people, messing with their strategy, making changes to it on a regular basis. I'm not talking about, your day-to-day, deviations. I'm talking about, you actually going in and making changes to it, making adjustments to your strategy. Maybe add this, change your setting on that. And so this is one where you're kind of making modifications to the strategy itself or your system itself. And so it's not really a poor execution kind of thing. It's I'm changing the thing itself. And so that happens a lot. You'd be amazed. And here's one of the contributors to that. And again, this is not just purely psychological. This isn't just because, you feel like, it's not working. I want to go fix something. So I'm going to make some adjustments, or I'm going to try to make it better. So I'm going to make some adjustments, or I see additional opportunities. So I'm going to make some adjustments. That's where this comes from, is, those kind of urges and notions. But one of the biggest contributors to it, believe it or not, is that so many traders, you ask them about, their system, and oh yeah, I know my system, sure. And so they don't even reference anything. Most traders don't even have their system written down. And so they're trading from memory. And that's huge. That is a huge issue, because, if you're trading from memory, you can just say, yeah, I know my system. I know it. I don't need to have it written down. But the thing is, let's say you're having a rough week. Maybe it's been a rough couple of weeks. Maybe, you're something happened with your car that hit you with a $5,000 expense. And so now you're feeling financial pressure, or like I said, you're not in a great state of mind, and things aren't going well. Part of you is going to have that urge to fix things or make them better. And so you're going to go in and change, make a couple of changes or adjustments. And, maybe it'll help, maybe it doesn't, but, a little bit of time passes, and then, the cycle repeats, and you make a few more changes. And at the end of 3 to 6 months, you've made a lot of changes, or at least some significant changes, and what you're working with really isn't even the same thing that you were when you started this time period. And over a year's time, it can change dramatically. I mean, I had this one guy come to me and for coaching, and one of the first things we did was we took a look at his system, and it was this huge thing. It was like 9 pages that he sends to me, And he's trading like super fast. It's like, all his trades are taking place in a matter of minutes. But he's got this huge document and all this stuff in there. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, you can't even read this in the time it takes you to, execute, enter and exit a trade. He's like, yeah, I know, but that's my system. I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look at it, and we'll take a look at some of the data, and we'll see, try to figure out how to fix this. And in fixing it, what we found was his base strategy that he started with really it was pretty straightforward. Basically, price action with one indicator. And then we were looking at his entry criteria and his exit strategies and all this kind of stuff. And what we realized was, yeah, he had added this, that, and the other thing. When we pared it all back down to just this base system that he started with, it really worked. And it really worked well. It crushed it. And so the thing is, like I said, it's really easy over time to, for your system to become something very different from where it was at a certain point in time when it worked. And that's a big problem. Okay, so that's the second area. So the first area is just plain deviating from your system. You're just not following what you got. The second one is where you're making changes somewhat frequently. And over time, it really changes a lot. And you've gotten way away from your original strategy, which probably was pretty decent. Okay, this third area is really huge. And again, this is where my background as a quality assurance engineer, it lets me see it. And this is how I'm also able to help people fix this. And this is where you have a built-in inconsistency in your method. Now, here's what I'm talking about. This is one where it just plain within your strategy as you have it, there's variability that's kind of built into it. Well, and here's an example of what I'm talking about. I'm working on this one guy, and part of his, setup for his charts before he even started, looking for entries and everything. Specifically, one thing that he did was, he was using Fibonacci lines. Well, the way he put them on there was highly variable. Okay? And going over different charts, I was going through several charts with him and watching him and asking him, okay, so when you put the Fibonacci lines on your charts, how do you do that? And it's like, well, here, just do it like this. I'm like, okay. And so, we'll pull up another chart and he does it. We'll pull up another chart and he does it. We'll pull up another chart and he does it. And I'll pull up like the first one we started with. And he puts the lines on there, but he put them on there differently than he did the first time. And the thing is, how he put them on there was not really clear in his method. He just was kind of doing it. Now, he wasn't breaking any rules because, his rules said, put the Fibonacci lines on the chart. And so that's what he did. But there was kind of a built-in inconsistency because we went through the cycle a few times, and I let him know, it's like, dude, we did this one chart 4 times, and you put the lines on there 4 different ways. Each time you put it on there a different way. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, wow. And I'm like, so you need to figure out what you're doing there because, you're using your rules to make your decisions. You're saying, okay, when we hit the 0.5 or 0.62, this is when you're making your decisions on what to do. And if your lines aren't in the same place on the same chart, how's it going to be the same, consistent across a changing chart? And he's like, wow, yeah. And we found that and 5 other things that he was doing it was, like I said, it was just built-in inconsistency because the variability was okay within his rules. He wasn't breaking his rules, but it was just kind of built in. And again, it all comes down to the foundational premise that your strategy is not your system. The strategy is the premise that you're planning on making money with. It's your strategy. It's how you plan to get in and out of the markets and make money. Your system is, how am I going to do this day in and day out? Hopefully, if it's a good strategy, I want to be able to do it, hundreds or, maybe even thousands of times. Because if it works and it makes me money, I want to be able to do it a lot. How am I going to be able to do that, numerous times consistently? And that's your system. So you can have a great strategy, but if your system has issues, like I said, it has some built-in variability, built-in inconsistency, you're not going to get consistent results. And that sucks. Again, because and almost nobody's aware of this. You can say, well, I have rules. Okay. But that doesn't mean that your system as a whole is a solid system. And that's where I help a whole lot of traders, is fixing that kind of stuff to make sure that your system, it's a good system. It produces highly repeatable results. Again, quality assurance is having a solid process where you know the output. It's not left up to chance. We know the output, and that's where it's so perfect for trading, because we're dealing with a dynamic environment. The charts change all the time. You have the built-in uncertainty in the markets. You never know when an event is going to happen that triggers a response in the markets. But if you think about it, the better you can dial in your system, the better off you're going to be. Yeah, as far as the things that, can cause or contribute to the built-in inconsistency, again, being a quality engineer, I know what these are, and I've got a list. There are actually 11 different things that can be creating inconsistency in your system itself within the rules. I mean, said as far as, I used to put on his Fibonacci lines. That was just one example. There are a whole slew of things that could be screwing you up, that are causing built-in variability, built-in inconsistency in your system itself that you're not even aware of. So, it's crucial, if you want consistent profits, that you get this taken care of. If you want to have a system where it's a process where you know what the output's going to be, then it's something that you really do need to address. And I can help you make that happen. Now, like I said a few minutes ago, so we've got these three areas, right? You got, the built-in inconsistency, which affects the other two. Again, it's not always just, purely psychological matter as far as deviating from your system, making changes frequently to your system. It's not purely psychological. There are practical aspects to these other two areas as well, along with, of course, how you have your system constructed. Does it have built-in inconsistency? So these three areas, there are psychological impacts and aspects and practical impacts and aspects. I mean, the second one, like I said, if you're trading from memory, and that's what part of what is facilitating you making changes all the time, sometimes not, changes that you're not even aware of. Well, that's where, being able to, or having your system documented is such a big deal. At least you have that reference, so that, 2 weeks from now, things aren't working. You're like, am I doing something different? You can go back and look at your document. Huge. You might say, oh, wow, yeah, I forgot. I've been forgetting to do this. Or, well, yeah, God, I didn't realize that I changed that. And so that by itself can be a huge thing. But, and even with the deviating from your system, there's a practical aspect of this as well that has a psychological impact. Yes, of course, having your system being well documented and it's a solid system, there are other things even beyond that that impact your ability to stick to it. And for example, one of the things is plain, are you deviating partially because, you have doubt about your system? There's some lingering doubt that floats around in the back of your mind. That's something that can be addressed in a practical way. How do you establish confidence with something if you've been struggling, if you've never had a profitable month? So how you establish confidence is a practical matter. It's not just psychological. So if you'd like help with these, or you're not sure what to do, swing by Inside Out Trading and book a call with me, and we can discuss, what you're experiencing, what you're wrestling with in particular. Is it just deviating from your system? Is it, you're making a lot of changes? Is it, some built-in inconsistency? Like I said, there are different things that can be contributing to your not getting consistent profits. So we can talk through what you got going on and see where the actual root causes are. Again, what's actually going on and what to do to fix it, so that, yeah, you can get those consistent profits and settle down and, have more confidence. So if you'd like to do this, swing by Inside Out Trading, book a call with me. It's a free consultation. Be more than happy to help you out. We'll get things sorted out, best path to move you forward. And if you would also, in the meantime, if you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and share this with your friends. If they trade and they're struggling with some of these things, they'll thank you for it. So again, I hope this has been helpful. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.